What up, tribe? It's your girl Raji, and I am here to tap in with Tribe Talk, Lilith's Interlude for today, as promised. So, if you're just tapping into this series, I have been doing, it's only one episode. I'm going to be doing a series for Lilith in Libra to start the Renaissance quarter. And we will be starting this off with Tribe Talks about women who run with wolves and the artist's way. So if you haven't been able to grab those books or that workbook, click the link for my Amazon storefront in my bio, and you will be able to get your copies digitally or physically. So yes, so let's get into this. Now, I'm not even gonna hold y'all. At first, I was like kind of lost to the parts of this particular chapter. Like, I had to like get back on the saddle, if you will, because this again is not a book that you can simply just be like, oh, okay, this one, I could just skim over these. Like, no, you can't do that. You might miss something, and I don't know. I'm starting to feel like she put something in the book to where unless you totally focus, you can't get the full scope of what she's saying. Because I'm a well-versed reader. I was talking about this in the live, not the live, with the live podcast earlier. I was like, okay, like, I'm used to reading, like, no shade. I love to read. I've been that way since I was a kid, and I can usually follow, you know what I'm saying? Even if I'm a very, like, a very multifaceted person. Like, I can do several things at one time, okay? So, I can follow. So, I was like, hold on, I'm not grasping. Wait a minute. So, that's just a little warning shot to y'all, okay? Cool. But when I did sit in silence and read, I was able to get through it. So, Chapter 2 is called Stalking the Intruder, the Beginning Initiation. So, the idea that Clarissa explores the idea of like the naive woman before she begins to follow her intuition and tap into her psyche. And she goes into the realm of breaking down these different male-centered energies that we might encounter over time that we have to kind of work through, watch out for, the idea of dealing with predators, the idea of, and not just the predator like in the traditional sense, like she talks about it in the physical 3D sense of them being predators, but more on a scope of like how it damages your creative sense, it breaks you down as a woman, takes away your spirit, takes away your dreams. And like I said, at first I was kind of like, what the hell? But then I had to come back and I really got what she was saying. So the first story she talks about is this idea or this character called Bluebeard. Now, she goes on to talk about these sisters, right? And don't think of the sisters in a physical sense, because she kind of like later on, she's like, she breaks it down like the sisters are more like a psyche, and then you also have like or the personality that exists within us. So don't think of them as physical sisters. Even in the term where the brothers came to save the sister, that's more of our masculine and our feminine balancing each other out, right? Okay, I just wanted to throw that in there. So the psyche, which we have to deal with, like the natural predator. Okay, so she says here that you have what they call a contra natram aspect and against nature force. The contranatural aspect opposes the positive. It is against development, against harmony, and against the wild. So a lot of women are conditioned to just kind of go along to get along, and like how they catch us in our naivety, and how even some older women, depending on the level of nurturing, so to say, comfort, the amount of nurturing they received during their primitive years, a lot of older women can also be led astray and kind of like put in a box or trapped. Giving, it was very much giving I Know Why the Cage Bird Sing Maya Angelou type team, but just like different. So it's basically like more of an antagonist, and she goes in to say that sometimes even the best parental nurture is still like fucks it up, because they're turning crossroads into closed roads. Like, you're there to make a decision, but sometimes your circumstances, your socioeconomic, or you might have not had like a father in the home to give you that guidance, or your father wasn't as present. Like that type of stuff builds up the predator in terms of allowing us to pursue things based on our intuitive nature. So there's a lot of work with this predator because it severs the woman from her intuitive nature. And hold on, y'all. This predator in this story is called the Bluebeard. And she goes on to talk about, so this is something that's more so known within French and German stories. So they basically tell the story of how this guy, right, he's got a blue beard, and then the three sisters, which is really the psyche, and then you got the older woman, which is also a psyche, but can be seen in a physical sense. They see this guy, right? And he's courting the three sisters, right? So a failed magician, if you will. And he keeps inviting these sisters out. So they were kind of scared of his beard because he had an odd blue cast. And he brings them this. It was given very much color purple. So they finally agree to go on a date with this person. And they ride, and he puts on all the bells and whistles and gave them treats. Like, basically like almost like love bombing, if you want to look at it like that. So they was like, okay, maybe he's not as bad of a person. So then you have the two older sisters. Psyche is being like, I don't know what if we should do this again. But then you have the younger sister was like, oh, he's kind of charming. He's not so bad. He's not, as rough around the edges. Giving very much Beauty and the Beast. Color. Now I ain't going to say Color Purple because she was forced to do that in Color Purple. So she talked herself into it, basically is what she's saying. And she said the more she talked to herself, the less awful he seemed, and the less blue was in his beard. So this person asked for her hand in marriage. This psyche asked for her hand in marriage. And they got married, and he took her off into the woods, and he kind of, to a greater scheme, isolated her. And he was like, basically, I can give you everything that you want. I'm about to go on vacation. I'm about to do my thing. And only thing you can't do is don't look in this closet. Don't look in this room where this key fits. So her curiosity, which they describe as the sisters, come and they say, okay, let's look until we find what's here. Okay? So he says, you can go in my money rooms. So basically, like, think of it like a man saying, you can have my money, you can have things I have. You can have the home, which the heart of the home, the kitchen. You've got, what else? What other keys did he give her? Because I feel like that's relevant. Hold on, y'all. I want to go back to what keys he offered her. She took the proposal, key rings. Okay, all the storerooms. The door in the castle, the storerooms, the money room, the kitchen. He said you can invite your family, you can ride in the woods, the cooks will cook for you. You can have all this, but you can just not this one little thing. And the one little thing in the door, like, was interesting about it, because I ain't gonna lie, like I said, I was kind of like, okay, what's the issue? But the door is knowing this person's, like, deepest, darkest, like their shadow, the things that they hide, right? It was a proverbial door. It wasn't like a literal door. So it took me kind of like a little bit to be like, what the fuck? So when she found the door and she seen, like, all the bodies, the key started to bleed. Like, she tried to clean it up, which they say is a way that we as women cover up certain things that we find and see in men or situations, and we don't want to address it, or we overlook it. We put a band-aid on it, but it continued to bleed. So he realizes that he comes home and she tried to hide the key. Like, nah, I can't see you. I can't see you for how you really are. And he realized she lying. She telling. Then he's going to basically kill her. So the trip is the bodies in the room was the bodies of past wives, past partners that discovered that, this part of you don't want to share. This part that would make me choose wisely about you don't want to share. You want to love bomb. You want to wear a mask. You want to cover up that you're a predator, basically, in the sense of the word. And old girl was like, okay, well, give me a minute. Let me get my life together. And she ends up calling forth the brothers, right? So it says it's brothers in the story, but how Clarissa breaks it down is the brothers are, in a sense, how we have to balance our yin and yang. And I highlighted this, so I'll be able to kind of touch on that a little bit more. But the Bluebird story basically is about a predator. He's the dark man who inhabits all women's psyche, the innate predator. He is a specific, incontrovertible force which must be memorized and restrained. To restrain the natural predator of the psyche, it is necessary for women to remain in possession of all their instinctual powers, right? So this is insight, intuition, endurance, tenacious loving, keen sensing, far vision, foresight, acute hearing, singing over the dead, intuitive healing, and tending to your own creative fires. So in folklore, they say there are a number of sorcerers' apprentices who foolishly dare to venture beyond their actual skill levels by attempting to contravene nature. They were punished by injury and catalyticism. She goes on to talk about the idea of the Christian myth for Lucifer, who claimed equality with Yahweh and was driven to the underworld. She speaks about the Greek Akaros, who flew close to the sun and his wings melted, which basically threw him to earth. She speaks about the Zuni myth, the boy and the eagle, who tells the story of a boy who became a member of the eagle kingdom, but thinking that he would be able to be death. So he soars through the sky with his borrowed eagle coat, and it was torn for him, and he fell to his doom. So it's like, it's this false idea that you can have this amount of power, you can get this far, but you can only get so far. This is as far as I'm going to let you go. This is as far as you go. Okay? And that's kind of how she broke that down. Then she says, all creatures must learn that there exist predators. Without this knowing, a woman will be unable to negotiate safely within her own forest without being devoured. To understand the predator is to become a mature animal who is not vulnerable out of naivety, inexperience, or foolishness. Like, yeah. So, As a result, she persuades herself that Bluebird is not dangerous, but only idiosyncratic and eccentric. Oh, how silly. Yo, so I felt that part. Like when she was talking about how like we as women will like put a bow on some shit. We will put a bow on some shit so fucking quick that we know it's dark, that we know it's like, I took that more in a literal sense. And she talks about how, you'll talk yourself into something. Like she says, why am I so put off by that little old blue beard? Her wildest nature, however, had already sniffed out that the situation and knows the blue-bearded man is lethal. But the naive psyche disallows this inner knowing. Like, I have had a direct experience like this. Twice, to be honest. Twice. No, more than twice. But, like, in growing up and maturing as a woman. But the more significant times were in moments of my adulthood. And like I said, the idea of those red flags be looking like Six Flags, or you'll kind of have an excuse as to, oh, this is why I can nurture like a broken baby bird that is really not a baby bird. It's more of a, I don't know, what would be the lethal equivalent to a baby bird? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's that type of energy. Like, you cool with a little shimmy sham, but your intuition is telling you that, no, this is a bad deal. And it comes through in different ways. Like, I'm trying to figure out, like, how transparent I want to be. Like, how can I tell stories to, like, let you guys know that we're on the same page without, like, giving away too much. But, like, I'm a type of personality that I like a good debate. I like a good debate, and I like somebody that can match my intelligence. I overlooked the aspect of someone's direct, just extreme stubbornness to the point of fucking stupidity. Just because I was like, oh, this person seems intelligent. Like, it was a red flag. It was a red flag. And later on down the line, 10, 20 years later, I had to deal with the idea of this individual just disagreeing simply just because, challenging my intellect just because, like, no rhyme or reason, just challenging it, I just don't want to agree with you type energy. But I saw that shit like the very first time, but my youth and my naivety, am I saying that right, kept me in that situation long. I barreled right into it, like. And now that I look back on my chart, my natal chart, like, I see where that part of me resonated with that energy, but for all the wrong reasons. Like, it was a definite red flag. That was a Bluebeard moment, because this energy was continuously argumentative. It wasn't debate. It wasn't what I thought it was. It wasn't eccentric. It wasn't just purely for the sake of having intellectual conversation, and we can agree to disagree. I'm not the type of person where everything I think has to be right. I just want to have dialogue. And I don't know why I took it as some sort of like attractive thing that this person was willing to debate with me. Like, I don't know. And I forget the conversation, like what we were talking about, but I'm pretty sure it was something about men versus women as we stood on the steps of my college dorm with our other peers and had this discussion. And then there were other moments, like the aggressiveness, like later on, like I was like, boop, 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 boop. It was like red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. And these are like very specific Bluebeard moments, like thinking that someone being possessive is like a crown of honor, like, oh, like, it's not, though. It's really not. It's not, and to the extreme, that it was. And later on, as I got older, more seasoned, realizing like, baby, this is a red flag. Like, without going too deep into the story, giving up too much. Like, yeah, it was very much giving red flag. Okay. That I overlooked in my youthful psyche. Like, just like she said, giving this Bluebeard character a pass. Like, this person is lethal. This person is crazy. And you looking at it like, that's eccentric. That's cool. That's outside of the box. And a lot of my, I would say, not feeling welcomed amongst my peers made me accept certain intricate, eccentric parts of people that I allowed in my energy. That's how, like, the best way to put that shit. Like my second interesting encounter literally happened because I was criticized for my movement in the first one. Like, I allowed my family to make me feel like my standards were too high. So by lowering my standards and being more open to an energy that was clearly not ready. I ain't gonna say beneath me. I ain't gonna say da-da-da because, whatever. I'm gonna say they weren't ready. I'm gonna say they were half cooked. I'm gonna say they weren't done baking. And I could see that. I could see they weren't done baking, but I'm like, okay, it's cool. Then to criticize me, only later to say, this person's not done baking. Like, you can't make sweet potato pie and pound cake out of this lemon. Like, you can't. So that's why it's very important to have your own, like, innate, like, psychic moment. That's why it's very important for your parents or your mother figure to, like, build you up in a way that is not tearing you down, but giving you, like, insight. Maybe sharing personal experiences will work. Leading by example will work. And sometimes even the lead by example is not enough, because some children just gonna do what they want to do. But I just feel like those two major moments were very much about energies outside of myself, and seeking acceptance, or like wanting to get away just that fucking bad, that I felt like I would be okay with that eccentric Bluebeard, or wanting to prove a point. Like, no, my standards aren't that high. This is not like, this was before Share 7, of course. But and accepting less. And in that accepting less part, dealing with the monster behind the mask that couldn't deal with the fact that innately they knew that I was far beyond them. I was well out of their league. And this turned this energy against me later on. Like, they knew I was out of their league. I knew, but I was willing to accept those dark parts in hopes that something would build off of that. Like I said, I'm used to making pound cake out of lemons. So yeah, I definitely resonated with this part. Like, I was reading it like, oh my fucking God. Because now I'm older and I have my own children, I'm like, oh, hell no. Or not in, like, a situation, not even just my own children. Like, I'm not in, like, a place where I care what my parents think or my family thinks. Like, when I gave a fuck what they thought, and that's just keeping it raw so I don't have to, like, censor my words. When I gave a fuck what they thought, I made the worst fucking decisions. When I cared about acceptance and getting away, I made the worst fucking decisions. Because I am a wild woman at her core. I am a free spirit. I'm a learner. I'm a reader. I'm a researcher. I am not meant to be with a closed-minded person. I am not meant to be with a person that wants to stifle my voice. I am not meant to be with a person that has an issue with me glowing. I'm a fucking Leo rising. You can't even be my friend if you got an issue. You know what I'm saying? Like, and even though I have that Capricorn moon that kind of stops me from doing, like, being out there. Like, I'm terribly shy, which, like, I'm the person that's seen but don't really want to be seen type shit. Like, but you're gonna see me regardless because of the Leo rising energy, but I don't want to be seen. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but it's a thing. And so but I had to get used to that. But that light bothers a certain type of person, and they hold me accountable for it when it's something that you could tell it's something that has to do with them, not me. It damn sure ain't got nothing to do with me, because my Capricorn moon and them Scorpio placements don't want to be seen. So I had to realize that, though, about those energies. So I as I grew, I knew I needed someone more confident in their own skin and their own process. And a lot of the significant energies that I dealt with, they just weren't comfortable, baby. They just weren't comfortable in their skin. Yeah. So anyway, like, they say this era of judgment is almost routine in a woman so young that her alarm systems aren't developed yet. Yes. And I say this all the time. I got married when I was like 19 years old. I had my first child when I was like 20. I had no fucking business being married, period. Why did I do it? Because I did not want to deal with my... this is gonna sound bad. I just didn't want to do my family no more. I wanted to do something different. I didn't like it. I felt like an outcast. Now, certain members of my family, like, everybody ain't the same. So, and I'm not going to categorize who's best or worst, because that's, like, whatever. You know who you are. You know if you treated me fucked up, and you know if you didn't. But, like, yeah, I just wanted away. Like, I didn't want to have to... this is, like, I'm thinking about it in real time. I'm, like, thinking about why I made that decision. Why I said yes. I was in college, freshman. Myself and my madre unit were not very much getting along. My granny was supporting me. I knew at some point she would not be able to do that for me anymore. I knew that source of support, because she was older. I knew that source of support, that anchor, wasn't going to be there for a long time. My great-grandmother had cared for me. I stayed with her a lot, and she passed away. And I had a very close relationship still with my grandmother, and she took care of me, and I wanted to set up a foundation for myself, because I knew eventually, if I had to depend on my parental unit, I didn't feel like it would be a pleasant situation. And these were my thoughts at 20, and I'm processing this shit in real time. So this is a very transparent moment. So I made that decision, and not to say that I didn't like him at all, because I did. Like they say, like she's saying, I went through the process of, like, making excuses and being, like, okay with his quirks, I even had a friend that I was friends in high school with, and she came back and she was like, damn, girl, you didn't even have a wedding or anything. You just was like, came back on some color purple shit, like, I was married now. Like, and I felt like I was making a good decision, because I was like, ooh, here's somebody that I like well enough, they straight. But I knew, like, it was so many signs. Now looking back on it, they, like, but I spent a lot of time dealing with people who just, like, tolerated me, because I was dealing with it in my own, like, family. Like, I was tolerated. That's how I feel. I'm still, which is why I don't deal with a lot of them, like, tolerated. So I dealt with him. He tolerated me, and he took care of me financially, which I was also used to, because I ain't trying to say, like, my folks didn't, like, take care of me, because they did, but they tolerated me. Like, I don't feel like anybody actually, like I said, I'm not gonna call names. So it's like, if you did fuck with me, you did, right? But there were some significant energies that simply tolerated me. So I led a very early love life of dealing with people who tolerated me, or who just saw my beauty and not wanted to deal. Like, I had a lot of people that just like wanted me to be pretty and shut up. And I was used to that. So, and there were a few people that were cool with my intellect, but then there were a lot of people in my family who weren't. And I grew to just like strength myself and deal with it. So I feel like that's how I ended up with him. That's how I made that conclusion. And it has been a nightmare every fucking since, because he has been perpetually intimidated by that wild woman or that intellectual, like not wanting to be questioned. And I even had him later on to tell me that I was a harder personality to deal with, like I couldn't be controlled. I've had my grandmother tell me that I'm not a type of personality that just gonna listen to the first thing you tell me. Like, it has to make fucking sense. And they got my librarian auntie to blame for that, and not in a negative way. And even my younger aunt that I like took care of me when I was like younger or whatever. Like, I spent a lot of time with her, and she's a very independent thinker. And like my aunt like read a lot of books. They're real versed. And I don't come from a line of women that like they smart mouth, they smart, they whatever, but they, to me, some of them, not all of them, obviously, again, you know who you are, but some of them like watered themselves down just to have a relationship with a man. They're not their fullest selves, or when they were their fullest selves, they had to deal with men that were not the greatest, because I ain't gonna tell their stories because that's their business, but they weren't the greatest. So there was a lot more watering down, and I just wouldn't water myself down, and I feel like that's why we didn't work. He was a provider for all extensive purposes, but similar to this story, like, I just wouldn't water my fucking self down for him, and he hated that shit. Like, I wouldn't play dumb for him. I wanted to know, just like the girl in the story, like, she went looking in the closet, like he told her, don't look. I look. I'm the person who's looking. So yeah, that was a thing, and I had the similar, and I feel like I had that follow-up experience immediately after that. I got away from that situation because I didn't give myself time to be independent and to be alone. So I fell right into the same like kind of energy. Maybe this person was like not as financially secure. And let me start. Somebody is gonna find this shit so funny. Like, this person lied a lot too about their situation. Like, they knew, that's why I say that he knew that I was more out. How do I say? He knew that I was above his pay grade because he lied about too much that dealt with that. Like, he lied, he fabricated a lot. So a lot of my peers would be like, how the fuck you end up with somebody like that? He did not present himself like that. Like, I knew where he was from, I knew that, but he didn't present himself as like a low level ass person, like what he turned out to be. He didn't present himself like that at first. And for all extensive purposes, even the person before that, I didn't get to see that monster until like he had me away from my family, away from my home, away from my support system. Then the monster came out to play. Okay, like all the way, like, you get little peaks. Then the monster came out to play like all the way, like when he moved me away from my support system. So I totally get, like I said, this story, like I was like, when I had the moment to sit back and really like read that shit, I was like, damn. So then I went into the next phase of looking at another Bluebeard, and this Bluebeard like wore a mask. You know what I'm saying? That's why people like Geminis. Like, I don't know about, you know what I'm saying? I'm sure people have a lot of good experience with Geminis, but they do fabricate themselves somewhat. They wear a mask and they be mad when you rip that motherfucker off. And both of them had significant Gemini placements. And they were both very two-faced, very like wear a mask type shit, very say one thing, mean another, very intimidated by their intellect. Like, the chart checks the fuck out. I would definitely be like wary of a man that like didn't want me to know his chart at this point in my journey, because I see their charts now and I'm like, oh, that bitch checks out. And another like interesting point about my story, about my significance, is I realized every time I dealt with somebody, it was them like they didn't know their history. They didn't know their history. They didn't know they were probably adopted, or they were raised by like grandparents. Like, we had similar timelines, but like in a different way. So you do definitely deal with people from a perspective, like a mirror, maybe a black mirror, but you damn sure deal with people from a mirror. Cause I look back on it now and like their biggest issue is I was too sure of myself and they didn't know themselves. You know, so they were so busy putting themselves in a box, and because I wouldn't stay in one, it bothered them. It bothered them deeply. It bothers them deeply. And, you know, I guess in me, they seen things that they wanted in themselves, and that shit like bugs the fuck out of them. I'm just going to be clear. If you're listening, you shouldn't be, you know. This ain't your jam, buddy. Sorry. Just in case, y'all. You never know, because I be feeling like they So, yeah. So, anyway, back to the lecture at hand. So, now, as I got older, then she talks about how the older woman who is cut away from the wild, that she can't hear the inner warning, she too proceeds smiling naively. So that point in the journey is, like I said, how I had been taken away. He took me away from my support system. I missed a lot of experiences. I was pregnant, you know, younger than I feel like I should have been trying to have a kid, and placed in a box. I was very sheltered in that situation. I lived well and I was sheltered. Then I got back in the wild as I was older, and then I met another one. And that's how I like resonated with that fact. Like, what the fuck? Okay. So she says, even though they're wearing a ski mask, have a knife between their teeth, and a sack of money slung on their shoulder, we believe them when they tell us they're in the banking business. How many? I ain't gonna hold you. Like, it comes from a deeper place. That's why you can't judge people. Like, as I walk on this journey and I read this book, I'm like, and I'm only in chapter motherfucking 2, okay? I'm like, woo, Jesus. It definitely comes from a deeper place, for sure. So then she goes on to say, they're willful and feisty. Like, wait. She's talking about the young female, and she says, even if you have wise mothering and fathering, the young female may be seduced away from her own truth by peer groups, cultural forces, or psychic pressures, and so begins a rather reckless risk-taking in order to find out for herself. True, we all do that. They're willful, feisty, that they're going to insist on becoming involved with the predator at least once before they are shocked awake. I just didn't give myself time. And I wasn't given time. I didn't have that nurturing. Like, I always was rushed into some shit trying to survive. That's why I tell y'all, it's bad to make decisions out of like survival mode. It's every decision I ever made in survival mode was a dumbass decision later on down the line. Taught me a lot, but definitely a dumbass decision, okay? We are naive and we talk ourselves into some very confusing situations. Their mother talks about the wolf mom, where she leaves her pups to go hunting, and when the pups try to follow her, she lunge at them and tell them don't do it. Their mother knows her pups do not yet know how to weigh and assess other creatures. See, everybody don't have that foundation at the house. Like wolf pups, women need a similar initiation, one which teaches that inner and outer worlds are not always happy-go-lucky places. You can be lured by the pleasures of the ego. The acquiescence to marrying the monster is actually decided when girls are very young, usually before 5 years of age. They are taught to not see and instead to make pretty all matter of grotesqueries, whether they are lovely or not. It was a woman on here that not on here on TikTok that was talking about how she don't like the narrative that women don't like tell their kids the truth about their, like, if they have a deadbeat dad. And I think that goes to that. Like, you don't want to tell the dirty parts, and that make your kids like not know what the fuck they supposed to know. Now, he and her say that not even 24 hours ago, and then reading this again, because like I said, I didn't highlight and read through this. That made perfect sense. So maybe you don't have to go into like the eerie details, but like warnings and signs and allowing your kids to make like decisions based on their instinct instead of saying, oh, that's just your dad, oh, that's just your mom, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. So this training is why the youngest sister can say, his beard isn't really that blue. This early training to be nice causes women to override their intuitions in that sense that they are actually purposefully taught to submit to the fucking predator. Oh my God. So fucking true. So true. Like, I even, like, through the absence of my own father in my life, like, I don't know much about him. Like now I feel like my parental figure will only speak negatively about him when she would get angry. Instead of like giving me the idea, like it was just like only when she was mad, and then it would be a defensive moment, not a teachable moment. But he's passed away, you know what I'm saying? So I was kind of like in my feels about that. Like, this person they don't have a way to speak for themselves or show up in their actions. You know what I'm saying? You telling me about this energy when this person died when I was like 7 years old. So I don't know. Like, so that's why I would take offense to the situation. Because it's like, you know, now if you in the thick of it and you this your energy all the time and you done been around these children, then but that's why I ain't too care for that. Okay. Anyway, the older sisters are a little more developed in insight that they have knowing, which warns against romanticizing the predator. The initiated woman pays attention to the older sister's voices in the psyche. They warn her away from danger. The uninitiated woman does not pay attention. She is as yet too identified with naivety. So, for instance, a naive woman keeps making poor choices in a mate. Somewhere in her mind, she knows this pattern is fruitless, that she should stop and follow a different value. I don't know. I mean, I feel like this is true, but I also feel like I don't, like, from personal, I know y'all can tell y'all personal experience in the comment, but it was too soon. Way too fucking soon. Okay. And I did, like, see it. But like I said, the outcast, I had been out of the wild. I didn't feel close to my peer group anymore. I didn't feel like they could relate. I could relate. And I didn't have an example. I didn't have that nurturing. I didn't have, like, by the time I got back out there, it was like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I mean that in terms of instruction. Because I know people like, I didn't turn my back on you. Like, no, that story could get deeper. I ain't even going to go there. Anyway, but the desire to find paradise draws the woman into the marriage to Bluebeard, the drug dealer of psychic highs. Period. I feel like during integral moments in my journey where I could have walked away and started a new life, I was more tolerated. And that's the best way I could put that shit. I was being tolerated. So I continued to make that mistake because I didn't want to be tolerated. And this in friend groups as well as family groups. Like, the idea of being tolerated made me want to find community with energies that really didn't fuck with me either. And then to only find out that I was also only being tolerated, air quotes, in that arena too. Ooh, that's deep. Ooh, talk about therapy. What the fuck? Okay, they marry while they are yet naive about predators, and they choose someone who is destructive to their lives. Oh my God. They are determined to cure that person with love. They are in some way playing house. One could say they have spent much time saying, his beard isn't really that blue. Yes, the fuck it is, baby. Yes, it is. When the youthful spirit marries the predator, oh my God, she is captured or restrained during a time in her life that was meant to be an unfoldment. Instead of living freely, she begins to live falsely. The deceitful promise of the predator is that the woman will become a queen in some way, when in fact her murder is being planned. There is a way out of all of this, but one must have a key. And that's that key she was talking about in the beginning. Okay. The naive or injured woman is then too easily lured with promises of ease, of lilting enjoyment, of various pleasures, be they promises of elevated status in the eyes of her family, her peers, or promises of increased security, eternal love, second part deuce. Okay, high adventure, baby, part deuce, part motherfucking deuce. Oh my God, hot sex. Part deuce. Baby, this is just Ron and Cut, baby. If I was gardening right now, baby, we'd be having a deep ass real life conversation. Spirit know what to do and what to give me at the same time. Cause baby, I'll be telling y'all some shit. This is like watching this shit. Like, hello, Mercury and Neptune on that ass. Okay? Bluebird forbids the young woman to use the one key that will bring her to consciousness. To forbid a woman to use the key to conscious self-knowledge strips away her intuitive nature, her natural instinct for curiosity that leads her to discover what lies underneath and beyond the obvious. Without this knowing, the woman is without proper protection. If she attempts to obey Bluebird's command not to use the key, she chooses death for her spirit. By choosing to open the door to the ghastly secret room, she chooses life. Early in the formulation of classical psychology, women's curiosity was given quite a negative connotation, whereas men with the same attribute were called investigative. Women were called nosy, whereas men were called inquiring. I told y'all they hate that. Baby, they be like, you think too much. You always want to know something. People are fucking crazy. That's all I have to say. Finding the little door is important. Disobeying the predator's order is important. And finding out what is so special about this one room is essential to your being. The door in the tale is portrayed as a psychic barrier, as a kind of sentry that is placed in front of a secret. And what do you think that door is, and what might lie beyond it? This is like this person's dark side. A woman may try to hide from the devastations of her life, but the bleeding, the loss of life's energy will continue until she recognizes the predator for what it is and contains it. Wherever the predator lurks and works, everything is derailed, demolished, and decapitated. True, the animal groom is a widespread symbol in fairy tales, the general story. You know how Beauty and the Beast, shit like that? Okay, yeah. Tink, Peter Pan. Anyway, a strange man courts a young woman who agrees to be his bride. But before the wedding day, she takes a walk in the woods, becomes lost, and as darkness falls, climbs into a tree to be safe from predators. As she waits out the night, along comes her betrothed with a spade over his shoulder. Something about her groom-to-be gives him away as being not truly human. Sometimes it is his strangely formed foot, hand, arm, or hair that is decidedly outre and gives him away. Like, that's real shit. Like, this ain't even like weird shit. Like, you be missing it, and you be seeing, and you be knowing, and they do be having physical ailments that you be like, what the fuck, but you look over it, or odd things about them on a spiritual level and a physical level. For fucking sure. Okay, so basically in this story, like, the man dig the grave and is gone. Say he muttering how he will murder his latest bride to be and bury her in this grave. The terrified girl conceals herself, and in the morning, when he is gone, she runs home, reports him to her brothers and father, and the men waylay the animal groom and kill him. Okay? This is a powerful archetypal process in women's psyches. The woman is adequately perceptive, and though she too at first agrees to marry that natural predator out of psyche, and although she too goes through a period of being lost in the psyche, she wills out at the end, for she is able to see into the truth of it all, and she is able to hold it in consciousness and take action to resolve the matter. The blood in the story about the killing chambers for the Bluebeard is not menstrual blood, but arterial blood from the soul. It not only stains the key, it runs down the entire persona. The censoring ego most certainly wishes to forget it ever saw the room and ever saw the cadavers. Who among us does not know at least one female loved one who lost her instincts to make good choices for herself and was forced, therefore, to live a marginal life or worse? Perhaps you yourself are that woman. The deepest work is usually the darkest truth. It is in this psychic kind of land development that the wild woman shines. She is not afraid of the darkest dark. In fact, she can see in the dark. She is not afraid of awful, refuse, decay, stink, blood, cold bones, dying girls, or murderous husbands. She can see it, and she can take it, and she can help. This is what the youngest sister of the Bluebird tale is learning. The skeletons in the chamber represent in the most positive light the indestructible force of the feminine. Archetypically, bones represent that which can never be destroyed. Stories of bones are essentially about something in the psyche that is difficult to destroy. The only thing that we possess that is difficult to destroy is our soul. The Bluebird tale lays out the work for us with clear instructions. Track the bodies, follow instincts, see what you see, call up psychic muscle, dismantle the destructive energy. If a woman does not look into these issues of her own deadness and murder, she remains obedient to the dictates of the predator. Bluebird, upon discovering what he deems to be his wife's deceit, seizes her by her hair and drags her downstairs. Now it is your turn. So this, she talks about backtracking and looping. Like, and I tell a lot of my clients, like, when they finna get ready to leave somebody, don't, like, play dumb, basically. Play dumb and then come back. So, go on about your business. Now it is your turn, he roars. The killing element of the unconscious rises up and threatens to destroy the conscious woman. It was a story. This girl randomly came by my TikTok. TikTok is an amazing place. She was talking about how the dude dad had told her to stay away and, like, come back, get home safe, don't date my son. But she, like, confronted the son, and she had recorded this audio of him as she was confronting him about what he was doing when they was overseas. And coincidentally, he was in the military. Interesting, right? But, like, he beat her. Like, she played the audio. Like, she was trying to get justice for herself. So that's crazy. So anyway, in Bluebird, the psyche now tries to avoid being killed. No longer naive, it has become cunning. It pleads for time to compose itself. In other words, time to strengthen itself for the final battle. In outer reality, we find women planning their escapes too, whether from old destructive modes, a lover, or a job. She stalls for time. She bids her time. She plans her strategy and calls upon her power internally before she makes an external change. Sometimes it is just this kind of immense threat from the predator that causes a woman to change from being an adaptive deer to having the hooded eye of the watchful. In order to survive, we must not give in to fatigue. To go to sleep now is certain death. This is the more profound initiation, a woman's initiation into her proper instinctive senses, wherein the predator is identified and banished. This is the moment in which the captured woman moves from the victim status into shrewd-minded, willy-eyed, sharp-eared status instead. This is the time that almost superhuman effort manages to drive the so tired psyche to its final work. The key questions continue to help, for the key continues to bleed its wise blood, even as the predator forbids consciousness. His maniacal message is for consciousness, I die, you die. So when the opposite gender nature is healthy, as symbolized by the brothers in Bluebeard, it loves the woman it inhabits. It is the intrapsychic energy which helps her to accomplish anything she is, which is why I said it's good for women and men to have some type of idea about the other part of yourself, whether it be feminine or masculine energy. Because your masculine energy can help you and your feminine energy can help you. Okay, so it is the intrapsychic nature which helps her to accomplish anything she is. He is the one who has psychic muscle where she may have different gifts. He will aid and assist her in her bid for consciousness. For many women, this contrasexual aspect bridges between the worlds of internal thought and feeling, the outer world. A woman with a poorly developed animus, which is the bridge, has lots of ideas and thoughts, but is unable to manifest them in the outer world. She always stops short of organization or implementation of her wonderful images. The brothers represent the blessing of strength in action. With them, in the end, several things occur. One is that the vast and disabling ability of the predator is neutralized in the woman's psyche. And the second, the blueberry-eyed maiden is replaced by one with eyes awake. And third, a warrior to each side of her if she calls but calls for them. Many scholars who have studied this tale think Bluebird represents a force which is not redeemable, but I sense additional ground for this aspect of the psyche. Not a transformation from mass murderer into Mr. Chips, but more like a person who must be in an asylum, but a decent place with trees and sky and proper nourishment and perhaps music to soothe, but not banished to a back ward in the psyche to be tortured and reveled. Yeah, like, I guess... like basically saying, like, don't let that part of you harden, you must know about it to like handle it, but you don't bury it to the point where it's like you just like overly masculine about it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm interpreting it wrong. She says, on the other hand, I do not want to portray that there is no such thing as manifest and irredeemable evil, for that also exists. Throughout time, there's the mystical sense that an individuation work must be done by humans also changes the darkness in the collective unconscious of all humans, that being the place where the predator resides. Jung once said that God became more conscious as humans became more conscious. He postulated that humans called the dark side of God to become struck with light when they rout their personal demons out in the light of day. Instead of reveling the predator out of this predator of the psyche or running away from it, we dismember it. We accomplish this by not allowing ourselves divisive thoughts about our own soul life and our worth in particular. We capture invidious thoughts so that they become large enough to do any before they become large enough to do any harm, and we dismantle them. We refuse to entertain the predator. Its strength is extracted, and it is unable to act without us. We, in essence, drive it down into the layer of the psyche where all creation is as yet unformed, and yet it bubble in that etheric soup till we can find a better form for it to feel. When the predator's psyche in your room is rendered, it is formable to some other purpose. The predator's rage can be rendered into a soul fire for accomplishing a great task in the world. The predator's craftiness can be used to inspect and understand things from a distance. The predator's killing nature can be used to kill off that. Okay, so I feel like this is the part about you when I always say, like, you got to learn how to dance with your shadow. It's important to know your shadow, because the people that we deal with are a projection of us, in a sense. Like I said earlier, like a mirror, but a black mirror. Okay. The predator's killing nature can be used to kill off that which must properly die in a woman's life, or what she must die to in her outer life. These being different things at different times. Usually she knows exactly what they are. To render the parts of Bluebeard is like taking the medicinal parts of the deadly nightshade or the healing elements of the poisonous belladonna plant and using these materials carefully and for healing and helping. What ash of the predator is left then will indeed rise up again, but in a much smaller form, much more recognizably, and with much less power to deceive and destroy. For you have rendered many of its powers which it plied destructively, and you have turned these powers toward the useful and the relevant. Sometimes it is the message about the threatening aspects of the culture one lives in, whether it be a small but brutal culture at the office, one within their own family. Wait, hold on. Let me, first of all, backtrack. Okay, so I feel like, and let me say this, and this is about all, like, the people. I learned something from everybody. And I put that, like she said, into my psyche, into my tool belt, like all of the dark parts that were projections of a darker nature, things that I was naive about. I learned something from each person. I picked up a skill. I became more agile. I became more smart, or like more street smart. I became more smart to the ways of, the nice guy who pretends to be the nice guy. Like, I learned things from each person. I just want to throw that out there. Like, you did serve a purpose, be it, by lesson. I learned lessons. I didn't take losses. She says, so when people dream of the natural predator, it is not always or solely a message about the interior life. Sometimes it is a message about the threatening aspects of the culture one lives in, whether it be a small but brutal culture at the office, one within their own family, the lands of their neighborhood, or as wide as their own religious or national culture. Oh, what else? To take the world into one's arms. Yeah, we live in a very oppressive culture. And to this, she says, it is for this reason that the wildest nature in women must be preserved, and even in some instances guarded with extreme vigilance so that it is not suddenly abducted and garroted. It is important to feed this instinctive nature, to shelter it, to give it increase. For even in the most restrictive conditions of culture, family, or psyche, there is far less paralysis in women who have remained connected to the deep and wild instinctual nature. Often the creative life is slowed or stopped because something in the psyche has a very low opinion of us, and we are down there groveling at its feet instead of bopping it over the head and running for freedom. The dark man dream is often enough to scare a woman back into creating again. At the very least, she can create work which elucidates the dark man in his own dreams. That's so fucking true. When I started off in my first, like, real adult relationship, I wanted to be like an artist. Well, I was told by my family, I think I told y'all this before, they tried to train me into doing something that was more profitable at the time, which I shifted to graphic design because of it. And I was very confused professionally because I was getting like too many opinions. So anyway, graphic design. And then I got with this person and they like tore down at my creativity in the sense. Like, they also left me in a state of confusion. So that thing about running for freedom and then getting to the point where it's like, okay, so you don't do that. And then with the second experience, like the dark man dream, like the other dark man, scared me enough to step back into creating, scared me enough to make me want to be like more secure. And in this security, here I am creating a life for myself where nobody can control that shit. Nobody can take it away from me. Nobody can control it. I'm the person who has the key to that door. There's nothing you can do to take the key to that door. Absolutely nothing. And yeah, so that's very, very true. Okay. And so it is common for women to kill off their entirely original, creative, soulful, and wildest natures in response to threats from the predator. And I'm very much in an energy right now where, despite the predatory threats, I'm still like doing what the fuck I do. Okay. The cure for the naive woman and the instinct injured woman is the same. Practice listening to your intuition, your inner voice, asking questions, being curious, see what you see, hear what you hear, and then act upon what you know to be true. These intuitive powers were given to your soul at birth. They have been covered over perhaps by years and years of ashes and excrement. This is not the end of the world, for these can be washed away. With some chipping and scraping in practice, your perceptive powers can be brought back to their pristine state again. Like they say, sometimes you be shocked into using your intuitive natures. Like, that's how I even got into tarot. A lot of people like, how you get into tarot? Being shocked into that shit, period. They cannot change the fact that a woman is what she is, and that this is dictated by the wild unconsciousness, and that is very, very good. Mm-hmm. That chaperone shit. Mm-hmm. They call that a handler on TikTok. Wild woman teaches women when not to act nice about protecting their soulful lives. The wildest nature knows that being sweet in these instances only makes the predator smile. When the soulful life is being threatened, it is not only acceptable to draw the line and mean it, it is required. She is no longer wait. When a woman does this, her life cannot be interfered with for long. She cannot be interfered with for long. For she knows immediately what is wrong and can push the predator back where it belongs. She is no longer naive. She is no longer a mark or a target. So that's the end of the chapter. But I say this to anybody that wants to know how I stepped deeply off into spirituality. Like, after a period, I was shocked into it. I was thrust into it. It was the only way that I was going to make it out alive. Physically, mentally, financially. Spirituality was the only way. Getting back to my wild woman was the only way I was going to make it out alive. And here we have the Kush Concierge and why I do what I do. In a sense. You know, I could go down several other, pipelines of stories of the when, the where, the why, and the how. But just basing a singular experience, in regards to this blue-bearded man and this dark man, that's my experience drawn from that point. Yes, if you want to know how I got here and started to lean into my intuition, which I ain't gonna lie to you, it has not led me wrong yet. It has not. And they called me crazy. They tried to put me away. They've done so many things to challenge. They've isolated me. They withdrawn support. They've done so fucking much trying to box me back in. But when I tell you that my intuition has not led me wrong yet, so it is what it is, and it's gonna be what it's gonna be. But yeah, that's how I got to this place. And to read that in this book, blow for blow, was so interesting to me, because I was like, damn, I resignate. So, this isn't a pity party at all. This is the story of a fucking warrior. And tapping back into your shadows and balancing out your masculine and your feminine, where people think they can play in your face and make you naive or scare you, or letting your perception of the situation scare you. No. Putting up boundaries, blocking, just staying true to yourself is necessary for thriving, for survival, period. I don't really like to use the word survival, but in order to make it, because I didn't read that part of the story where she was talking about how the woman, because I ain't highlight that part, but she was talking about how the woman was free and doing what she wanted to do. And her favorite thing was just to get dressed up and go to the stores and just do what she do. And she ended up shrinking herself down like the dreamer. This is the pattern of the dreamer, right? And she goes and she gets with this person and he stifles her. He isolates her. And she tells the story. I don't even know where it's in here somewhere. It was a very short moment of the story. Hold on. Where is it? Anyway, she ended up killing herself. She cleans her floors. If y'all get to that part, because she can no longer live her life. She can't do what she want to do. She just had kids and he had her tucked away just like a fucking servant. And she killed herself with a shotgun. She took her. I don't know where that part of the story is. It's here though. I done skipped over it. I didn't talk too tough about it, but that's a very pivotal point too. And even if you kill yourself on a soul level, you know what I'm saying? Not even on a physical level. you know, if your dreams are a portal and they close the portal, it can be devastating to someone who actually wants to do something, you know. But yeah, I don't know, I'm skipping over it, but there is a point in this part of the book in chapter 2 where she talks about this lady who gets married and is taken away and she kills herself. And I've seen a woman on TikTok mention this. But these were just the main points that I put out on this chapter. This is a lengthy chapter, if you ask me. And she says that dark man dreams are wake-up calls, and you should definitely pay attention. Pay attention to your dreams. I keep trying to find that area. It's going to bother me till I find it, too. It is going to bother me until I find that part of the story. It is in here. Oh my God. It's in here. It's in here. I just can't find it. Okay, here it is. It was a short part. That's why I couldn't, But as she talks about, it's a true story. So she says that this woman that she worked with told her a story about her grandmother living in the Midwest, and how her grandmother's idea of a really good time was to get on the train to Chicago, wear a big hat, walk down Michigan Avenue, and really just look and shop. Like I said, I like the window shop. She liked to feel like a lady. And she talks about how she said by hook or crook or by fate, she marries a farmer. She moves out into the midst of the wheatlands and she begins to rot away in an elegant farmhouse that was just the right size with all the right children and all the right husband. She had no more time for that frivolous life she once led. Too much kids, too much woman's work. Then they say one day, years later, after washing the kitchen and living room floors by hand, she slipped into her very best silk blouse, buttoned her long skirt, and pinned on her big hat. She pressed her husband's shotgun to the roof of her mouth and pulled the trigger. She says every woman alive knows why she washed the floors first. She says a starved soul can become so filled with pain a woman can no longer bear it. Because women have a soul need to express themselves in their own soulful ways, they must develop and blossom in ways that are sensible to them and without molestation from others. Okay. So, yeah. This chapter was deep. I can only imagine. Like I said, I'm only on chapter 2, y'all. Oh my Lord. But needed. It's needed. And I feel very much seen. Like, I'm like, damn, they'll try to make you feel like you imagining that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is not what you think it is. This is not how it is. You're just crazy. You're just a woman, etc. You're just being emotional. But you be right the whole fucking time. You be on point the whole time. So yes, I think it's very imperative for women to reach back into spirituality, divine feminine, Lilith, etc. I think it's very important for us to get back to that spot. I think it's very important for women to lean further out of patriarchy in terms of where it's only 100%. I do. I think patriarchy, if it must be the yin to the yang situation, it should be something that is variable on a 50-50%. Like, okay, 50 me, 50 you. And when you get with a partner, it should be 100-100. I can be 100 myself, you can be 100 yourself. You feel me? Like, type energy. Or else you'll perish from an inside place. You might have money, but you be tortured. Or you might have the love and the passion, but you'll be tortured. So any attempts to stifle who you are should be seen as a red flag moving forward. Yes. I hope you guys did your Artist Way rising paper. Like, even if you ain't got the book, every rising, get up and write that letter and write them 3 pages and put them bitches up and don't read them, they say. But yeah, y'all, that's my thought. That's my thought on that. It was a deep chapter. Whoa. I could see why people are like, oh, this shit changed my life. Like, I see why now. Because I'm like, damn, that makes sense. That makes so much sense. So I'm going to read chapter 3. And hopefully I get it recorded later, y'all. Let me know in the comments if you feel what she put down. Let me know about your experiences. Email me if you don't feel comfortable, or, DM me wherever you follow. And, we'll chat. I love you guys, and I pray you guys got some clarity and some comfort or some familiarity where you're not alone in this process. You view me, even in parts of my own personal story that I had to share, which I'm not ashamed of. Like, you know what? I've told these stories before, but now I'm looking at them in a different light. So I can appreciate that. But anyway, y'all, I love you guys, and we most definitely will chat soon. Okay? Bye.